If you're tired of lags and low FPS in Rust, this video is just what you need. I'll show you the best settings in Rust for PvP, high FPS, great image quality and overall gameplay experience. I'm gonna cover absolutely everything you need to know from start to finish on optimizing your game, alongside which settings you should be using for a competitive advantage to allow you to get the best FPS possible and lowest input latency. I guarantee that after using all the settings, you will end up with an extremely responsive and great feeling game without any lags or stutters. So if you find this video helpful, be sure to hit that like button below and subscribe to the channel, it helps me a lot. And also, check out today's sponsor. Rust Clash is the only place you need to go if you want to dive into case battles. You can climb 3 free cases by using code STELIC or clicking the link in the first comment. Rust Clash also has a lot of new game modes like Tiles or Crash for you to test your luck. They have many deposit methods, including crypto, cards and skins, and instant withdrawals with a store full of skins or any crypto. Don't forget about the free rain feature, which gives you random drops every 30 minutes, so you can get even more rewards. Climb your 3 free cases right now by clicking the link in the first comment, or go to rustclash.com and use code STELIC. Please remember, loot boxes sites can be addictive, so make sure you're over 18 and only spend money you can afford to lose. Good luck! Let's start with the gameplay tab. Most of the settings in this tab don't play a significant role in your game's performance, but some settings here can give you a huge advantage over other players, as well as a small increase in FPS. First, change the field of view to the maximum value to see more of what's happening at the edges of your screen. If you have a really bad PC and you need every FPS you can get, set this option to the minimum value to gain a few extra FPS. Make sure that the head bob option is disabled and all other options in this section are enabled. If head bob is enabled, your screen will shake while running or when you pick up items, which is very distracting. Also, disable the hard punch option. If this option is enabled, every time you take damage, your screen will shake, become blurry and you will hear the sound of damage, all of which will distract you. Next, change nudity to underwear. This is a very subtle setting that will save you a few FPS compared to pixelated. Turn off all other settings in this section except for show blood. If you turn off show blood as well, then you won't know when you take damage, since you've disabled the hard punch option. You have 2 options in the physics settings. If you want maximum performance, set max gips to 0. Then open the console by pressing the F1 button and type effects.maxgips -1. Now when you destroy any building blocks or deployables, you won't see any particles, which can give you a huge advantage in specific situations. For example, during a raid, when you blow up a door or a wall. If max gips is set to the maximum value, you won't be able to see what's inside the base for a while. If this value is set to -1, you'll be able to see what's inside immediately. If you have a good PC, turn on the Upgrade Effects option, which will enable new animations when upgrading building blocks. If you need every FPS, then turn the setting off as well, and also disable both RGB settings. In the Audio tab, just be sure to mute the in-game music so it won't distract you, and put the master volume higher than the game sounds volume to hear headshots with bass boost. I also recommend using the 7.1 speaker mode, which gives you a more spacious experience. In the Screen tab, select the maximum available resolution. I have a Full HD monitor, so I choose a 1080p. If you have a 2K or 4K monitor, choose the maximum resolution for you to maximize the load on your GPU. If you have a really bad GPU, you can try playing in HD resolution. The image quality will be much worse, but your FPS will increase significantly. Also, make sure that screen mode is set to full screen. Set the FPS limit to the refresh rate of your monitor. If you have a 160Hz monitor, set it to 160 FPS. If you have a 240Hz monitor, set it to 240 FPS. This will allow you to get rid of stutters and breaks in image display, making your game much smoother and more stable. Turn off VSync, as this setting locks your FPS to your refresh rate. We already did this earlier. Limit FPS in background, turn off, and limit FPS in menu, turn on. I don't think you want to watch videos in the main menu at 200 FPS. 60 will be enough. Now let's move on to the graphics tab, where all the magic will happen. Set the render scale to 1. If you set it to the minimum value, your game will be turned from Full HD to 720p quality. However, your FPS will be lower than if you select 720p yourself in the Screen tab. Shader level. This is one of the most important settings. If you are a true PvP chat who needs every FPS, set this option to the minimum. In this case, you will have to sacrifice image quality for a 5 to 10% increase in FPS, and in most cases, it's really worth it. For other players who care about image quality, set the value to 3. This will make the textures of the ground, sand, snow and rocks looks more natural and beautiful, making your game much more enjoyable. You'll have to sacrifice a few FPS, but it's definitely worth it. Turn off NVIDIA DLSS and NVIDIA DLAA, enable NVIDIA Reflex mode to reduce input latency, and disable NVIDIA Reflex latency marker. Set the pixel height count and particle rate cast budget to the minimum values. These two settings are related to ray tracing, however, they are not working at the moment, so just turn them off. Soft particles. This setting adds a glow around the campfire, making the image more beautiful and doesn't affect your FPS, so you can enable it. As for draw distance, I recommend using these keybinds. I leave these commands in the description below, so you can just copy them. These commands allow you to decrease and increase the draw distance, which will help you see objects, animals and other players in the distance more easily. It will also help you slightly increase your FPS when the draw distance is set to the minimum value. Water reflections. This setting affects all water in the game and consumes a lot of FPS, but only if you are close to water, so disable it. Water quality. This setting only affects water in the ocean and has no effect on water in lakes, rivers or oases. But it also consumes a lot of FPS, even if you are far from the ocean, so disable it as well. Turn off grass shadows. This option not only reduces your FPS, but also makes it more difficult to find items and weapons in the grass. Grass displacement. Always enable this setting to make it easier to find weapons and other items in the grass. A very useful setting that doesn't reduce your FPS at all. Precise terrain billboards. To be honest, I have no idea what this setting does, so just disable it. Texture quality. In most cases, you don't need to select a value more than quarter resolution, as this is the optimum value based on testing. However, if you have a really good GPU, you can use full resolution to improve image quality, but you will have to sacrifice some FPS in that case. Anisotropic filtering mode and level. Just turn off these two settings and forget about them. Parallax mapping is a useless option that doesn't work in the game and lowers your FPS, so make sure to disable it. Let's move on to shadows. This is another very important section of the settings that can greatly affect your gameplay. If you think that to get the maximum FPS, you just need to turn everything to 0, you're wrong. If you do this, all shadows in the game will be just awful, blinking and really bad looking. However, by sacrificing just 1 or sometimes 2% of your FPS, you can get very beautiful shadows. To do this, set the shadow quality to 1, shadow resolution to medium, shadow mask mode to shadow mask, shadow cascades to 2, and disable the last two settings. As you can see, the quality of the shadows has improved, yet your FPS remains almost the same. And finally, graphics quality section. Here you need to set the decor quality, grass quality and terrain quality to 0. These three settings can give you an advantage in some situations if they are turned off. Max tree meshes and tree quality are two settings that work together. If you want to get the best image without losing quality or FPS, then set tree meshes to 50 and tree quality to 100. In this case, you will get the best result without losing FPS or image quality. If you have a really high-end PC, then set both of these settings to maximum and forget about them. Set object quality to 100 or 150 if you have a good PC. Load bias set to 1. This is the only correct value for all PCs. If you use a lower value, you will not see animals and some objects in the distance. If you use a higher value, nothing will change, but you will lose some FPS. And finally, set the particle quality to 0, because it's completely useless setting that doesn't do anything. In the Image Effects tab, you have two options. If you want a beautiful image, use my settings. You will lose a few FPS, but it's worth it. These settings will enhance your gaming experience by adding shadows, sun rays, and other effects, making your game more atmospheric and enjoyable. For maximum performance, use only these three settings. They won't affect your FPS, but they will slightly improve the image. Here is an example of how your game will look in the first and second cases. As for anti-aliasing, you will have to find the right setting yourself. In my case, I don't use this option at all. Instead, I use motion blur as I have a good monitor. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but for me, it's the best option. If I use any anti-aliasing, the image immediately becomes blurry and unclear. And when I turn the camera, my eyes hurt because the image is too sharp. If you run into the same problem, try disabling anti-aliasing and enabling motion blur. In other cases, it would be best to disable motion blur and use a fixed IA or a semi-IA anti-aliasing. This way you won't lose much FPS and will slightly improve the image quality. And finally, in the Experimental tab, disable the first two settings and enable Automatic Processor Affinity. Also, set GC buffer to the maximum value. The more memory you allocate for this, the less stutters you will have when you run around the map. And make sure to disable clouds. If this setting is enabled, you will immediately lose about 20 FPS, a completely useless option. So here are the settings for real PvP chats. These settings are focused on maximum performance at the expense of image quality. Using these settings, you will get the maximum possible FPS on your PC. And here are the settings that I use to record my videos and play on official servers. These settings strike a perfect balance between beautiful graphics and good performance. Now that you know the best settings in Rust, it's time to learn how to fight. Because winning more fights in Rust is super simple, and it's actually not just all about mechanics, crazy aim or recoil control.